Hi Chris, how are you?
Yeah, good afternoon, Rod. Here we are on the first day of March, isn't it? Sorry, I was just looking at our show notes and it said the 28th, but it's not. It's the 1st of March. So here we are. We're in March already, which seems absolutely bonkers. So we're what? 2/12 of the way through the year.
Yeah, it's not only technically spring, I think it's actually spring now, right?
It's starting to feel like it.
Yeah.
So that brings us neatly into the weather. The weather's, still soggy, but with a hint of sunshine.
Well, yesterday was glorious, and I feel it's important to say Happy St. David's Day.
Oh, of course, yes. My wife did remind me of this morning. It is St. David's Day. So, yeah, Happy St. David's Day.
Yeah.
And it is episode 214.
It certainly is. Should we fire straight in and do some follow-up?
Let's do the follow-up.
Okay. So in follow-up, and we know how Microsoft has been adding bits whether you want it or not to Windows 11. Well, their latest thing is if you click in Outlook, a link, it will automatically launch Edge, Copilot in Edge for you, no matter what. This seems like a bad
Edge
idea.
isn't quite shitified enough.
I think the word is pervasive, isn't it? They pervasively want to jam as much AI into your face as they possibly can.
It's not just AI, though, with Edge. They just made Edge it used to be an amazing browser, really quick. Nobody liked it. I liked it. They then put it on the Chromium engine, which is probably the right thing, tick. And then all they've done is pile more cruft around the outside. And this is just shocking in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting, isn't it? Microsoft used to be the company that would release or buy a terrible version 1 product and then iterate and make it better and better and better until the point you could at least tolerate it, if not actively like it. I think that's probably fair to say.
And they were probably better at Apple than this, that they would release a version 1, like you say, iterate on it, whereas Apple released a version 1, maybe faff with it and then kill it, whereas Microsoft usually kept things around a lot longer than others. But they just seem to be ruining Edge. But to be honest, if you put something in Edge, will anybody notice? Because nobody uses it.
No, I mean, it's interesting, this article from the Register here. So the update is consistent with Microsoft's current Copilot Everywhere strategy. And I can't argue with Copilot Everywhere. It's a notepad. It's shoved in your face. I get it in my Outlook app on my phone that it wants to open and edit documents in there. And I don't want it. I don't want Copilot. Copilot is not the best of breed LLM. I think most people will go for ChatGPT or Claude or one of the other things instead. And the strategy is Microsoft worrying they're losing a march in something, which they probably are. They're underwriting a lot of this other LLM stuff, but they're doubling down, not a phrase I like either, on we've got to shove everything in your face. Sign up for Xbox Live, sign up for Microsoft Live, sign up for Copilot. And then at some point they'll just ramp the prices up. And we're seeing prices ramped everywhere, and it's the last thing I want to see. They're losing, in the same way we're going to talk about Apple for the main show, they're losing so much goodwill, not just with the developers, which is what Apple are losing it with, but with the public as well.
Yep. No, I'd agree with this. I think what's annoying here is they are literally stuffing Copilot in your face. Like, they're just Copiloting everything for the sake of it. I don't know. Don't like it. I don't like it at all.
The trend is bad in all of our tech. As in the world at the moment, the trend is bad. So, this is a bad one.
You have just made me think, though. So I set up a Windows thing at work the other day, like a Windows virtual desktop thing. And I can't even remember what browser I was using on it because I'm not sure I've even used a web browser on it. Like, I just go back to my iPad or my Mac to use the browser.
They still come with Edge as default because the first thing I ever do when installing a Windows install is go and download Chrome/Firefox/ anything that's not Edge.
And I've seen that we've done a recent upgrade, and everybody wants Chrome. Nobody's using Edge.
I mean, I don't think anybody should be using Chrome either, or at least some people should be. But it should be there for competitive reasons. Much as I hate a lot of the changes Firefox have made or Mozilla have made to Firefox recently, it's not Chrome. Everything else is based on Chrome. Edge, as you've said, is based on Chrome. I think you need to move on.
Agreed.
Speaking of moving on, it has been officially confirmed. We talked about the rumor last week that Apple was going to have an announcement on March the 4th. They confirmed that just before we went live, I think. And now Tim Cook has come out and confirmed a week of Apple product reveals. Woo!
Ooh, I'm quite looking forward to this. I don't think anything they're going to release is going to be for me because I'm not really after anything at the moment and I'm a bit skint. So I just like new tech coming out and see what they're doing. So I'm curious to see what comes.
Yeah, I mean, this comes back to my moral problem with the company at the moment, that much as I like a lot of what they do, I don't think I want to give them any more money. I felt. I mean, I never used to feel like that. The same position as you. I'd be really excited what was coming out, and I'd try and find a way to buy it because often, even if I didn't need the laptop, the phone, the iPad, whatever it was, the watch, they'd find some little compelling reason that would get people like you and me hooks in our mouths to go and upgrade the thing. And I mean, it's been a bit of a corner to turn, but yeah. So this week, I think we're expecting the cheap MacBook, potentially iPads, and other things.
So I think it's basically your base level stuff. So you got your base level MacBook, which is the new one with the iPhone chip in it, which I'm a little interested in because that might be perfect for my wife at some point. They then got the base level iPad, which, whilst doesn't run Apple Intelligence, and there is no point with Apple Intelligence right now, does make sense for them to have all their products up to a certain standard. There's also talk about the iPad Air possibly getting an update. The Mini could get an update, but none of this is confirmed. And then the other base level thing is the iPhone E model, so the 17E, i.e. the one for businesses. So I think that'll be interesting, but there seems to be a little bit of hype. So I wonder if there's something else that's going to drop, because these are all fairly mundane products. Are they going to do the MacBook Pros? That'd be nice to see. Are we going to see a new MacBook Air? Don't know. So there's plenty that they've got in the canon, and it would be good maybe if Apple did a March event, WWDC in the middle, and then a September event, and got into a better cadence. They haven't really got a good cadence up with anything other than the iPhone. So curious to see what we're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, the Engadget article we've linked to reckons MacBook Air, 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros with the M5 Pro and Max chips, and entry-level MacBook, and potentially the iPhone 17e as well. So that's quite a lot of hardware. You could squeeze that into 4 days. It's an unusual release approach they've taken. I agree with you on the cadence. There's too many things left. Apple Studio display. That are just left dying and withering on the vine, and I think getting into something a bit more regular.
I think you mean Mac Pro.
Well, we could go Mac Pro, but I think I think the Mac Pro has been updated more than the Studio Display XDR.
No, only once with Apple Silicon.
Once more though.
It went from Intel to Apple Silicon and nothing.
Yeah, but we've had an update. The XDR has never been updated since it was launched.
It's fair. It hasn't even had a price drop, which I think is more galling at this point.
So there's all sorts of issues. I mean, my disquiet about the company to one side, that's some decent products I guess they're going to be announcing. For me, they're going to announce something. It's the pricing I'm interested in. Samsung dropped their S26s last week. All of them are $100 more expensive right across the range.
Wow, okay.
So I think that's Apple's biggest competitor in the phone space, really, ignoring the fact that it's a manufacturer, not an operating system manufacturer. That's indicative, I think, of what we might be about to see here.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there, and I've certainly seen it when I'm buying devices for work. I think, though, for me, I'm not really looking for anything. I could talk myself into a MacBook Pro at some point, I think, as I'm starting to travel a lot and sometimes take my Mac with me, but equally sometimes just take my iPad with me. But I don't think any of these updates are going to be for me.
I'm more interested in the super cheap one. What's possible with that MacBook?
There will be something. It's going to be hamstrung in some annoying way, and it's probably going to be the screen.
Yep. So that's what we're expecting to see next week from Apple. Google, however, has also dropped a little thing.
Hang on. What device are they going to release first? What category?
Oh, right. I think
it's going to be the iPad. It's going to be the phone. It's going to be a MacBook.
I think it's going to be the cheap MacBook. It's the most interesting product by a long way, particularly if it's got funky colours on it. We know MacBook Pros will be a little bit better because we've seen the M5 chips already. We know the MacBook Air will be a little bit better because we've seen the MacBook, with the M5 chips already. It's the most interesting thing is what can they do with a super cheap laptop?
I bet that comes last.
Because it's the most interesting thing.
Because everything else is going to be, oh, look, it's just last year's one, but with the newer chip in it. So I'm going to say iPad on Monday.
Okay.
It's either the iPad or the iPhone. It's the
okay.
iPad.
All right. Well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see. Tomorrow was Monday. We'll see. By the time this podcast is out, this will already have been decided.
Yeah, this will be old news.
Old news. What's not old news is Google's Nano Banana 2. We talked about it before. Its ability to do an awful lot of image generation, be it stylized in a particular cartoon or Marvel characters or hyper-realistic or put yourself in a Bond poster. The possibilities are endless as long as the LLM has ingested that art style. Well, they've made Nano Banana 2 faster and released it to more people. So even a free Google tier user can get in and make use of Nano Banana now if you want to mess around with that image generation in your LLM. if that's of your cut of your jib.
Why is it called Nano Banana?
Because why not?
Why can't it have a good name?
It's not a bad name. The thing's called Gemini. You know, what do you want to call it? Gemini
Nano
image
Banana
generation.
is just like two words that I don't know, none of it. Well, I guess Google, all three words, Nano Banana, Google, Nano and Banana mean nothing to me.
I mean, none of these names mean anything. Why is Pro better than Max? Why is Ultra better than Pro? Who knows? It's all nonsense. Words are it's just language.
Fair. Okay.
I mean,
have you ever made an image with one of these tools for anything that's useful?
Yes. I made an icon for an app I'm developing with it.
Okay. And that's all I've done with it, by the way. And I haven't really found many other reasons to do anything that's useful.
And my avatar at work is based on one of these as well.
Ooh, I haven't thought about doing that.
Just, it was quite a thing. Not everybody in your team is happy to be shown a photographic representation of themselves. However, quite a few of them don't mind some sort of AI-generated cartoonified version of themselves, and that works quite well.
You know what? Because I do want us to have our pictures in our directory at work, and maybe that's a good suggestion of, if you're uncomfortable putting your picture on it, you could go and generate one over here and put a link in.
Yeah. As long as it looks vaguely like you, that you can go and
Agreed.
see, then it's fine. So for me, that's been perfectly acceptable, and for a while, when I was at conferences presenting on all the amazing things that we do for the day job, I would have all of my team in cartoonified versions of themselves, just because I could say, hey, look, we're doing stuff in AI as well.
And also, if you're presenting all your pictures on one slide, you're on a similar theme, and it kind of works, doesn't it?
It looks corporate, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that. Moving on, Apple. There's a bit of a contradictory story here. So in 26.4 Beta 2, UK users got an age verification prompt. This seems to have been in mistake. I've seen at least one tweet or comment recently that they hadn't meant for this to become a thing yet. However, I can't find a verified article pulling that back. This article from 9to5Mac said that the age verification came in for a UK user and it took less than 30 seconds. So this is the vendor being made to do age verification rather than a software platform like Reddit or whatever.
Yeah, a bit of an odd one, this.
The problem is, I think this is a thing. I think it's Tennessee or maybe Michigan are trying to introduce a law that mandates all operating system vendors to verify age. So that would be Microsoft, that would be Apple, that would be Google in the case of Chrome. How that is going to work in the world of Linux, I have no idea, because it's just a distribution that's wrapped up together. So I think it's, again, lawmakers losing sight of what's actually feasible, possible on computers. You can see the urge, make the vendor do the age verification so it doesn't matter from that point. But what sense does it make in another thing? How many kids are signed into their parents' iCloud accounts on that device, you know?
Loads of people. Like, I often help friends out, and you look at how their family is configured, and there's all these old devices hanging around, or randomness, and oh yeah, that old iPhone, I never wiped it when I gave it to my child. I was like, why did you do that? So but is this thing going to pass on to the web browsers? So that obviously there's been this debate lately because adult websites, for example, have to have age verification, I think here in the UK, or is it EU? Is that thing going to pass through so that, you know, it's going to be baked into the OS, so it's going to pass it through to the browsers so that websites don't have to do that age verification thing because they go, oh, we just got it from your OS.
Well, it's possible, isn't it? We talked last week about Reddit giving all your data to Peter Thiel's company, to Palantir.
Yeah, Palantir.
So you can understand why not having to share that information. All you need is a thing from the operating system vendor to go, yeah, this person's over the age of 18, we've checked that, and then you can move along. However, we've just outlined a couple of scenarios where that's likely to not be the case. You know, you loan the computer to somebody else, it's a corporate device that's already been signed into by your company, your kids picked it up, somebody else has picked it up, you haven't verified their age. This is an absolute minefield, and I genuinely think this is an issue that lawmakers haven't really thought about because they don't understand technology and they don't understand the ramifications of this stuff.
Completely agree.
A worry. Something else that's a worry, we've talked about it a lot now, is prices are going up everywhere. If you're a 1Password user, which you and I were for a very long time, they're hiking their prices as well by quite a lot. So significant price increases coming from March 27. If you run an individual plan at $35.88 a year, it's now going up to $47.88. And for a family, which is what I had, $59.88 a year will go up to $71.88 a year. It's quite a hike.
Yeah, it is quite a hike, isn't it? It doesn't feel too badly priced, says the guy who doesn't pay for this, but it's quite a hike. Percentage-wise, that is quite a hike. I'm not surprised, but the problem is with this, again, it's the whole cost of exit, isn't it? If you've got your whole family on something, you got to get them all out of it. It's a tricky one.
I just feel it's enshittification again. A lot of people in the Mac community were very upset with 1Password 8, I think it was, when they moved away from a true Mac app to an Electron app. And you still hear people complaining bitterly about that all the time. So, and even in the first comment here on this 95 Mac article, you can see the Safari extension became completely unusable at some point. So it's not working well for them. They're charging more for it. There is a switch to them being more interested in corporate customers than individual consumers, as used to be the case with 1Password. And then a lack of regard for the platform. So all those things taken together means you'll just eat up that cost of buying out and you'll go to Proton or Bitwarden. The problem is, if everybody raises their prices at the same time, it just makes it increasingly difficult for individuals and families. And I think that's wrong. Apple are sitting there with we've got a passwords management app now that will seamlessly sync your stuff between your phone and your iPad and your Mac. Yay. Do they start charging for that at some point?
It is a concern. Like, do you have to become an iCloud member to have it? And it's a bit of a grey area. And their passwords app's okay. I mean, it's not great. Don't get me wrong. They're iterating too slowly on it, but it is okay for what is a freebie, right?
Apple changing software slowly. I'm shocked, Chris. Shocked.
Yeah, and this is always my argument, isn't it? You're better off sometimes with a one-person developer piece of software than you are anything Apple do, because it just moves glacially slowly. So I'm not surprised 1Password's increasing their prices. I'm a bit disappointed that it's so high and they haven't done more stepped increments. I do think 1Password is a great product, though.
I agree. It is a great product, or it was a great product. I haven't used it in about 6 months now. I've moved on to Proton and my own self-hosted thing, and I may continue to use my own self-hosted thing, but it's all your eggs in one basket is never good. And you said at the start of this, the cost of getting out. So I think you need to be aware of what the alternatives are and what happens if you do take your passwords. What are the security implications of that? How well does it move? Do your passkeys move with them? There's all that sort of stuff that goes along. If you've got your identity in any of these things, do the images of your passport or driver license and all that kind of stuff move too? So it's a lot to consider.
Yeah, look, I did migrate to Apple Passwords. I did an export from 1Password, chucked it all into Apple Passwords. And occasionally have things it hasn't brought over, like my in the UK we have your national insurance number. And I had that in 1Password, Chris's national insurance number. Migrated over to 1Password, it wasn't there. Why didn't it move? What 1Password is good at, though, is I've still got my account with them and I can log in and check things. Like, they haven't just expunged it even though I've stopped paying. So I think that is a small benefit, but I am a bit disappointed not everything transferred over.
So I got a couple of questions about it. How long does that last?
A long time, I would say, because I've nearly been out of it, not quite a year, but a good 10 months. So I should probably check that, because when I get to 12 months, am I going to get upset?
And if they get hacked or they leave it for 14 months, 2 years, 10 years, 15 years and never actually delete it, then you've got some of your passwords which will still be vulnerable in that period of time.
Yeah, correct. So what I need to do, I think, is I need to go through, check all the little weird and wonderful things, such as national insurance numbers, things that didn't actually have a password, and see if there's anything else left lying in there.
Yeah, it's still a good product, but it's becoming an increasingly expensive one, I think, is our answer to that. There we go.
Agreed.
Should we do the news?
Do the news.
So do you think LLMs are woke?
I read this article you put in there and I got angry and then I had to close the tab and walk away.
So as we know with many things, the current Trump government, which is, I can't even go there. I think if you've listened to even one episode of our podcast in the last 2 years, you'll know exactly our thoughts on this. However, they've obviously been working with a bunch of LLM providers, OpenAI, Copilot, Microsoft, Anthropic, and others. However, Anthropic refused to change their guardrails on their software. So obviously the Department of, inverted commas, War, not the Department of Defense as used to be, wanted them to be able to write code so they could tell missiles to blow people up, or carry out simulations involving various things. And Anthropic refused to remove the guardrails, the ethic subroutines, for want of a better word, from their AI, Claude. So as a reaction to that, they've just chucked them out of all government contracts.
I don't know what to say to this, because it feels quite a knee-jerk reaction, and one that you wouldn't expect a government to do. Just go, right, just jettison it, we're done.
this government?
That's the right answer. Yeah, quite.
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of things about this. I mean, first off, all of these LLMs are based on stolen stuff. You know, we can't get around the fact that they all crawl the web. They're based on stolen stuff, so their ethics are in a dubious moral place to begin with. However, I kind of respect Anthropic for this. I think this is the kind of things that the vendors should be doing.
Yeah, true. I mean, fair play to them. I just don't like any of it. It's just, why is the president of the United States getting involved in this stuff?
I mean, the thing is, they just started a war. You know, the uses of these LLMs are immediately brought into question. They started a war, and it just beggars belief that in the process of leading up to and planning an attack, presumably most of their government would have been involved in that, particularly the commander-in-chief. And a couple of days before that, he's posting this kind of stuff to his social networks. What is going on?
Yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it? Completely bonkers.
Anyway, it upsets me and it makes my brain hurt. So let's move on to something that will make your brain hurt too, which is apparently there's a new Wi-Fi attack called AirSnitch that can basically just break into everything, no matter how secure your networking is, because it works at a hardware level, not just on a trying to hack your passwords level.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying, isn't it? I was trying to understand this as I read it earlier. And I've obviously just spent a huge amount of time upgraded all my Wi-Fi, ticking all the boxes, fiddling with it. And then I read this and I'm like, oh, why have I bothered? I might as well just open it to everybody.
Yeah, I think some defense is better than no defense. In the same way, having a slightly complicated password is better than not having one at all, or you reusing the same password all the time. And let's face it, I think as long as you're with a reputable vendor, they can try and at least address this, or they'll be investigating it. I mean, we had the Heartbleed attack that applied to all Intel CPUs, 5 years ago, 6 years ago at this point? That was a fundamental code execution problem that attackers could get in and get anything they wanted out of them. And occasionally I'll install a Linux on an old laptop and I'll see Heartbleed come across as part of the installation screen. So they're still mitigating for that now. So all you can be is as secure as you can try to be. You put your patches in place, it'll stop the average user. But if somebody is super determined to get into your system, they probably will.
Yeah, and I think that half the time you need to do the basics, right? So that you're not just hanging out there. But if somebody really wants to get in, because of reasons, they will find a way, or they will find the right people to get in. So it's just a bit worrying, isn't it? I'm amazed we've not had more of this with Wi-Fi, because obviously it all uses similar protocols. Obviously it changes over time, but there's still a lot of old Wi-Fi products around that need the older protocols for logging in.
Yeah, I'm going to recommend something in media that everybody should go and watch. It's about an hour on YouTube, and it kind of relates to this too in terms of security and what goes on and hacks and all this kind of stuff. So interesting, but there's always another hack, I think, is the answer.
Oh yeah, you're never going to be 100% sorted, are you?
I've put a story in just for you, so I'm going to shut up and let you talk about Formula One, Chris.
Who doesn't want to talk about Formula One? Rod is pointing at himself for those not watching the feed. So look, I love Formula One, and my media this week is Formula One related. So Apple have increased maps and put all the tracks in the Maps app, basically. I do sometimes fear that the Maps app is becoming a quiet dumping ground for stuff. This feels like this could be in a separate thing, maybe be in the sports app while the race is on. You can have a look at the map, but you can go and have a look, and they've got Melbourne in the screenshots, which is quite cool. How much am I ever going to go look at this? I don't know. I'd rather just go on the PlayStation and drive it, I think. But it's kind of cool, I guess. And actually, this might have been useful. My brother and I are going to go to Spa this year in Belgium. And we were looking at the plan of where you could buy tickets for. And at the same time, we were on YouTube watching a F1 driver go around the track, so we could work out roughly where the best positions would be and the best stands and things. So it would be useful from that sort of perspective. But I don't know. I'm quite impressed with Apple Maps. I like all the 3D-ness. But it just feels weird they're shoehorning this in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it serves people who are interested in it. I really don't know how many people are going to be there zooming in on their Apple. Maybe this is for a future thing, like that F1 app we saw before with Vision Pro, where it would give you 3 or 4 feeds, show you dynamically the track. Maybe what they're doing is they're actually building functionality for the future rather than it being a thing right now.
Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of cool if you had this, and then you could see where all the cars are in real time and stuff going around. It does feel like there's stuff happening, to be fair to them. It's a shame, we're not really consuming F1 in a different way, or any sport, really. We're all still watching it on big TVs like we've done for the last 20 years. It's a shame tech hasn't really come come to enjoy in a more immersive way.
Yeah, I agree. I've got to pop in the odd medical story here and there, Chris, so brace yourself, although this isn't such a bad one. Evidence this week, or last week actually, that getting your vaccinations is not only good for you at the time, but potentially has better effects for you as life goes on as well. So some evidence has come along that the shingles vaccine, in this case in the pictures made by GlaxoSmithKline, could potentially prevent or offset dementia in some way. I think that's incredibly helpful. It's also incredibly unhelpful that the current Trump administration in the United States is recommending a course of non-vaccination, as we see from measles outbreaks. And this has an impact on the UK as well, because we see fewer people inoculating the children in the UK because they think it's all right to do it in the US. However, it's not only good for you right now and for the health of the population right now to get whatever vaccinations are going, but also if it can offset dementia, then that's surely got to be a good thing.
Oh yeah, completely agree. Dementia's horrible, isn't it? So that has got to be a good thing. I don't know what to say about the administration. Like this, I don't know.
It amazes me how many. We've talked about tech for 3 years now on this podcast, 3.5 years, something like that.
It's been a while, mate. It's been a while.
We've done well, and we haven't missed many weeks. We haven't missed any weeks. We've been late sometimes. We've never missed any weeks, dear listeners. How much of everything we talk about is actually affected by politics? It's not just flat out, here's a cool bit of tech, as we might have thought 10 years ago. Everything is affected by politics.
More and more recently as well. Like
I think it always was.
Maybe as I've got older, I've got more aware of the political angle.
Could well be. Anyway, this is fascinating. Go away and do yourself a favour and read this Ars Technica article. It's for what's quite a complicated subject, it's quite well told.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
And last but not least, we talked about it in the follow-up section. Samsung have released their S26 range for this year. I do like Samsung's naming convention, where it's 2026, therefore you get the S26. It's very sensible.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see this from Apple. Now they've done the OSs, are we going to get this? I don't know. Because I guess they've got the problem that you'd buy the phone, the 17E now, if they called it the 27E, you'd be running the 26 OS on it.
I guess it doesn't really matter, but I think they could have taken a chance. It's a point of differentiation from Samsung as well. Anyway, Samsung have announced their S26, their S26 Plus, and their S26 Ultra. I presume there's a foldable still to come, because that's the way Samsung tend to do these things. They both do the book folding one and the flip folding one. I've forgotten exactly. I think it might be Galaxy Flip and Galaxy Fold, actually, is what they call them. So they're still to come. It's very incremental upgrades on last year, very slightly different colours, slightly more rounded off edges. I think they've gone to aluminium rather than titanium around the edges. Sounds familiar. They're still glass front and back. They're more durable. They're more waterproof. You can see the Ultra phone has additional LiDAR sensors and flashes and things like that. No, they've all got a flash, but it's got additional sensors for the cameras as opposed to the 3' lenses that are on the other ones. I think they start at about $800, I want to say. Even the chips aren't upgraded over last year. The batteries are, I think, slightly bigger. So not an awful lot of differences. It feels very Apple-like, doesn't it? This is definitely evolution rather than revolution. They've knocked the prices up a little bit. The only thing that's genuinely interesting about these phones, and it only applies to the Ultra, is that they've got this new privacy display feature. And I think this is incredible. Have you seen much about this?
I'm aware of this. It's quite a cool bit of innovation, I think.
It's extremely cool. So it's not on by default. You can turn it on. And it's base level when you turn it on. As you start to go off axis from the phone, so if somebody's sitting over your shoulder looking at your phone, they probably won't be able to see it. As you go more off axis, you can see less, which is a feature of LCDs and OLED screens anyway. But this is deliberate, and it works really well. What's really cool about it is you can set zones on the screen to have this feature. So, for example, as notifications come in, you could turn on privacy display for that, so people wouldn't see what notifications you were getting, or other particular parts of the screen. So if you've got one app that only ever pops up in the bottom right-hand corner or something like that, you can turn on the privacy display just for that part, and it will just make that point of the screen really difficult to see. I just think it's a really cool bit of tech.
I think it is, and fair play into Samsung. They've got quite a lot of cool hardware tech out in front of Apple many times. Like they've had folds for ages. They've got flip phones. They're doing some cool stuff with their cameras. And now they're doing this privacy screen. I think it's really good. Their hardware does look great. I mean, it does the Samsung hardware look very Apple-y, or does the Apple stuff look very Samsung-y? I don't know what to say here, but the design looks very cool.
I think they just influence each other at this point. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's interesting that neither Apple nor Samsung have gone to the new battery chemistry, though. Both of them are maintaining the old stuff. I forget, with silicon carbide, whatever it was, is the new battery technology that is much more dense. That could just be a cost thing as well at this point, I guess. But yeah, new colors, new prices. But I think if you're on an S25, there's no great rush to go out and upgrade to an S26.
Could the battery thing be due to every time an executive gets on a plane and you have the warning over the tannoy that goes, if you see something smoking, please report it and don't charge this and do that. And every time one of the engineers comes up and goes, we've got this new battery tech, it's amazing. They go, no.
Yeah, Samsung are probably a bit sensitive about battery tech, aren't they? They've had a few flash in the pan devices.
Hey, once burnt, twice shy.
Oh, very good, very good.
Boom.
So that's that. New phones if you want them. Media. So the most important thing that's happened this week is MotoGP's back, and I apologise for this because there's spoilers for today's race. But yeah, MotoGP's back. Yay! Is there a more exciting racing thing in the world? Absolutely not.
Some people might beg to differ. I would imagine that MotoGP is far more exciting than F1.
The sprint race yesterday was indescribably good. It's one of the best I've ever seen. There was even
indescribably good.
Indescribably good. There was even a last corner steward's inquiry, which they managed to resolve before they got to the finish line. It was incredible.
There's nothing worse than a race finishing and there being some dispute hanging over the result. So cool. Oh, I'm glad. So how many races in are you now?
So you get a sprint race, which is like half points on a Saturday, and then you get an actual race on the Sunday. So it's the first actual race was this morning.
Oh, the first one of the year?
Yep.
Okay. And have you got new regulations this year? Because in Formula One, it's all new.
There's not new regulations. It's all changing next year. We're getting new tyre manufacturer. We're getting new engine CC limits as well next year. So it's all changed next year.
So however, resets next year then. Okay.
So the Formula One lot, Liberty Media, now own MotoGP as well, which and
they've got their playbook,
which I'm already slightly not a fan of because they've said we're losing one of the best tracks in the calendar. They're taking Phillip Island away, so the Melbourne track is gone. I'm unhappy. It's going to go to some street circuit, which is what I think the cars race around in Melbourne.
It's not really a street circuit, I wouldn't say. Thingy Park, isn't it?
I don't know. Anyway, I'm very resistant to it because Phillip Island is legendary. And I think I've shown it on this podcast before of the rider who nuts the seagull. Iannone nuts the seagull as he comes around a corner because it's in his way on the track. But no matter what, it's just a very exciting track. There's hills and dales and jumps, and it's just phenomenal. So I'm not a fan of that. But today's racing was pretty good. Pretty good. I'm not
sorry. I was just trying to find the name. Like F1's website is a bit thin on information. I just want the name of the track. I can't think what it's called. Albert Park.
I must be. I think it's a different thing then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It is a cool track, but I don't think it's a street circuit. Fairly confident it isn't.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So get out there and watch MotoGP. I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I should really give it a whirl.
You absolutely should. So yeah, if I can get the next link to come up, that would be really nice. There we go. Right. So yeah. So my next thing is just a recommendation as much as anything else. It's from a creator called Veritasium. They do quite long form videos, about an hour, where they take an issue and they look into it in an awful lot of detail. So do you remember about a year ago we were talking about an SSH exploit in Linux?
Vaguely.
Right. We did, trust me. And everybody was very worried about it because most internet servers require SSH. That is a connection methodology for the administrator to come in and do stuff to make sure they're patched, updated, running, all that good thing. SSH is built into your Mac. It's built into Windows in a lot of cases. Your Raspberry Pi almost certainly requires for people to get in and do things. It's ubiquitous to the way that the internet runs. If you have any interest at all in how that hack came about and what was involved with it, and the state-sponsored actor that had to have been embedded for 2.5 years within a related project for it to work, it's just a fascinating, and it's a very well done video. Any interested at all how these things do? And it explains about encryption and all that good stuff as well. Worth a watch.
Okay. I must confess my attention span on YouTube's quite short, which isn't a good thing, is it? But I probably should give this a bit of time.
Give it a go. So that was Veritasium. I also managed to watch a film this week. I'm taking a break from Bond. I think I've been bonded out slightly recently.
You're just putting off Quantum of Solace now.
Yeah, it might be that. However, I think world events might have sort of focused me on this one. Have you heard of a film called Argo?
I have, and I've seen it, but not for a long time.
So do you know what the hook in Argo is?
Go on.
It was when Iran had its cultural revolution and the Ayatollah took over from the Shah. And at that point, a bunch of people in the United States Embassy were taken hostage by the Islamic Republic of Iran. Some of them managed to get out from the Canadian Embassy, though. About 6 of them managed to get out in a particularly inventive way. And the inventive way was they set up a science fiction film. Star Wars was around at the time. They pretended to be out scouting locations to film the sci-fi film. And they got the Americans to pretend to be Canadians. They got passports and everything for them, and they snuck them out.
Wow, that's ingenious.
Directly out of the airport in Tehran. It is an amazing story, and it's mostly true. There's some debate about whether it was the CIA or whether it was the Canadians themselves that managed to do this. But it's a phenomenal story. It scores very well, as you can see in Rotten Tomatoes here. 96% from critics and 90% from the audience. It stars and is directed by Ben Affleck, not Casey. It's very well done. Great cast. Some really good people in there, including if you watched *Halt and Catch Fire*, that TV show about sort of the birth of computers in the 70s, which if you haven't watched, I encourage you to do so. The husband and wife couple from that as well. So no, it's just a good show worth watching. A good film worth watching.
I'm quite a big fan of Ben Affleck. He's had some misses, but he's had a lot of very good films, to be fair to him.
Yep. Oh, this is a particularly good one, and very appropriate for current events.
Agreed. Maybe I should give that a spin.
I think you should. It's right up your street. It's a film, Chris. It's 2 hours. It's no longer than 2 hours. It's worth watching.
I think I've actually got this in my Apple TV library.
There you go. More Formula One.
Yeah, so this is just a quick update on Drive to Survive Series 8, which is, I don't know, it's very formulaic in the Drive to Survive. They're using the same thing they've done every year. They do, 8 to 10 episodes based upon the last year. What has really annoyed me, though, is it's come out 1 week before the race. Like, why can't this come out in January and you drop one a week for 8 weeks, and then it warms us all up nicely for 1st of March, well, not the 1st of March, to whatever next weekend is, and you're ready for the first race, whereas you've got to pile this all into like a week's worth of watching, which I don't like. But it's good. It gives you a bit of inside track, a lot of swearing, so if your children are into F1, you might want to bear that in mind. But I thought they handled it quite well. You may have seen in the news that the Red Bull team principal left last year, got fired. They actually had him on after he got fired, and he spoke to the camera, and I thought that was actually quite nice that he got to just say about his events. He didn't go too much into why, but he got massively booed at the start of the year, so it was clear something was going to happen. Lots of people left Red Bull, but I thought they handled it all quite well, and so it's an enjoyable series. I haven't got through it all, but would recommend. It's enjoyable. It did make me subscribe to Netflix for 1 month only, because it's now like 20 odd quid here in the UK to get Netflix in 4K, which is a lot of money.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, agreed. And so I have it for a month. I've already cancelled it, and I've told my family, if you want to watch anything on Netflix, you got 30 days. Crack on.
Now is your chance. Get on with it.
Yeah, I just don't like having all the streaming services because you just don't use them, and we definitely don't use them. So let's make the most of it and then watch something else.
As I look at this, I can see that there's no critics or audience reviews of this so far, and nobody seems to like the editing based on the 2 comments I can see.
I thought it was all right, the editing, but they're never going to please everybody, are they? I thought it was okay. It is a bit slow in places, I'll give them that, but they're targeting, very good. They are targeting a wide range of people, though. Some people watch it that don't watch Formula One, and so I guess they're trying to make it broadly appealing.
So it's just reality television for Formula One, but presumably it's the last season, not the current season. So it feels better.
It's the last season. That's what I mean. The last season ended in December. This then launches a couple of months later. They could have done with launching this in January, I think, just to warm you up.
I mean, I'm not a marketing guy, but surely following the drivers while they're training for the new season, their hopes and dreams, that would be better, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be, but there was quite a bit of drama last year, and the cameras are on in the background, and you often see the real people going, I think they're filming this, we better not talk about this right now, and there's bits of that in there.
Yeah, I think MotoGP tried to do this in league with Amazon a couple of years back, and it didn't go well. So maybe now Liberty Media own MotoGP will have the same thing.
Well, I was about to say, they've got their playbook, and getting Netflix to hand out fistfuls of cash. Also, if you've got Apple TV in America, you can watch this season for free.
What a win.
What a win.
Something that might also be a win. I'd forgotten, actually. I've only put this in the show notes at the last minute because it occurred to me I binged and finished the whole thing off. Was Sugar. I talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think, that I'd watched one episode and thought it was interesting enough to come back to. I came back to it. I finished it literally in one night. I sat and did the whole thing. Not bad. Very unexpected ending. Did not go the way I thought it was going to go.
Unexpected good, unexpected bad.
Unexpected surprising.
Okay.
I can't say more than that because it's really quite out of the blue. I mean, if you think about it, it was probably there, but not what I expected from sort of noirish thriller set in Los Angeles.
Okay, fair enough.
Check it out. Sugar. Another good Apple TV show, of which there are a couple.
Yeah, they've got a reasonable batting average, haven't they?
Yeah, they've done all right with this, I think. Games?
Let's do the games.
You can tell us about all the games you have played, Chris. Go for it. Tell us.
Threes is probably all I've played this week.
I thought you'd taken that off your phone.
I've hidden it on my phone. I did have a go at it. I was on a train, sat on the floor on a train for a 2.5 hour journey. I did have a go on threes because I was feeling really cheesed off.
That's reasonable. I played a little bit of Gran Turismo. I did the weekly challenges in Gran Turismo. Does that count?
That counts. That will get fired up later, I think, if I get 10 minutes with my son after we finish this.
Fair enough. The one thing we can talk about is revenue. The App Store made $52.5 billion in 2025, which is more than Google Play and Steam combined. Wow.
That's massive, isn't it? Some of Apple's businesses are just eye-watering how big they are when you compare them to the opposition.
It is. So there's a couple of charts in this 9 to 5 Mac article in 22, 23, 24, 25. It started in 22 at almost 50 billion, and we're over 50 billion now for the App Store. Google Play, has only just gotten to the 30 billion, and Steam, which we all associate as the massive elephant in the room when it comes to gaming, is only kicking around at about 11 billion. Only 11 billion. It's quite a thing.
Yeah, it'd be better if those charts were all to the same scale to give you an idea of visually the size, but wow. Steam I thought would be bigger, but a lot of people go to Steam to buy cheaper games, and you don't get so many subscriptions on Steam is my impression, whereas Apple's very subscriptions based.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting looking at the year-on-year change they've got down here. The only one that's actually grown in an insignificant way is Steam. And you think Steam, you either require a very expensive gaming PC, or you're playing more casual games on it, or a Steam Deck or something like that. So there's obviously a growth there, because what's not on here is Microsoft. Microsoft have a whole gaming thing called Xbox Live.
It's quite honestly admitted there, isn't it? And they've just had a new management restructure, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's not going well from what I can see. The guy who's headed up Xbox Live for the last decade or so had left and was taken over by his deputy, and his deputy is not from a gaming background.
I'm sorry, if you're heading up a gaming function, you need to be a gamer.
You need to understand what gaming is, for sure. And to be fair, unless you're Apple, because Apple have no clue what gaming is, and yet seem to be doing all right with it anyway.
I think that's more by luck than skill.
Yeah. Lots of people have iPhones. Lots of people play threes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, isn't it? Threes. What more do you need?
Well, it's probably Candy Crush with loot boxes or something, isn't it? Isn't that what they're really doing?
It is. It's subscriptions and loot boxes and all of that.
Scummy stuff like that.
Yep. All the stuff I don't buy.
Speaking of scummy stuff, should we do a main show?
Do the main show, just it.
So, as is traditional, Jason Snell, Six Colors blog, has released his annual report card for Apple. This is a thing he's been doing for, many years now. In fact, I'll tell you how many years if I scroll down a little bit. Since 2015, he's been doing his Apple report card. And what he does is he sends out a survey to a bunch of people in the Apple ecosystem, some developers, some pundits, some journalists, things like that. And he gets all their scores across a variety of domains. And we might not go through all of these, but he goes through Mac, iPhone, iPad, wearables, watch, Vision Pro, home, Apple TV, services, hardware reliability, Apple OS quality, Apple app quality, developer relations, and world impact, which is quite a lot, quite a mouthful. And like I say, we won't go through them in masses of depth, I don't think, but we thought we'd just go through these, maybe pick about what we feel about how it's been scored this year compared to previous years, and maybe give our scores as well, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think the key here, though, is hardware and software combined. There isn't a score for Apple hardware, Mac hardware, Mac software, iPhone hardware, iPhone software, because you've got to give a rounded figure, which I think is fair, because obviously you use the two together usually. So that can obviously weight the score one way or another.
Yeah. So because he's got this year by year, we can look at trends, ups and downs. We can relate it back to world events, and we get an overall score for the year based on how the 56 people that have replied to this have scored it. So the first thing is there's average scores across it all. And again, we'll go through these more individually, but the one that stands out to me as I look at this is hardware reliability is far and away above everything else.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like Rotten Tomatoes, isn't it? You've got like the reviewers score, and this is that, and they're saying for hardware reliability 4.5 out of 5. That's an amazing score. And my own experiences would probably agree with that. We've got a range of phones and laptops, and I've got an iPad, and I'd probably go, yeah, I'd agree with that. If the HomePod's not in that list, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's fair. So without going into these in more detail, let's sort of zoom in a little bit. So the first one is the Mac, and the Mac immediately gets conflated, as you've hinted at in our intro there, Chris, between hardware and software. And I think Mac hardware, good. We've said that week in, week out.
No, I think Mac hardware, excellent. It's better than good, isn't it? Like, look, I've got the MacBook Air, the M4 one. I've got the M4 Mac Mini. It's stellar. The hardware's stellar. And I'd be half tempted to go get a MacBook Pro because I think it's so good.
I'm going to stick to a Mac hardware good. I think it is good, unless you've got something else to benchmark it against, unless you're walking around with a ThinkPad or an Android tablet or something else like that. It's very hard to say that it's excellent compared to something else.
Fair.
Yeah.
And probably to your point, it's very iterative, so it is good hardware, but it's not really moved forwards. If you look at my MacBook now compared to 2 years ago, like the M2 one is pretty much the same as my M4 MacBook.
Yep. You were looking at taking MacBooks as an example of that. You were taking a laptop with 4 USB-C ports and a MagSafe port, an HDMI port, and an SD card, and that has not changed since the M1.
Yeah, fair.
All right, screens are a little bit better, speakers are a little bit better, batteries are a little bit better, processors are a little bit faster. It's good. It's really good. It's not excellent.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's fair to say.
I'll let you have it.
Thank you. I would say my compelling arguments always win. So I think that's fair. And should we give our scores now for Mac hardware? I think we'll do Mac software.
It's not Mac hardware, Mac in general. Do you want to talk around the software piece first?
All right, let's talk about software, and then we'll in the same way that they have, 1 to 5 or A to D, however you want to do it. Software is a steaming pile.
I don't think the software is not great, is it? They've obviously been some regressions this year, but there's lots I do like about the software.
What?
I like some of the animation. I don't like the crazy rounded corners. I don't like the inconsistencies. I hate the gradiated toolbars. Like, if you've got to put grading on something, it's pissing me off. And the fact you're hiding all my buttons everywhere. I just want to use it. I've got this lovely 27-inch screen, but everything's hidden. And that is a little frustrating. And I think Apple have always hidden stuff, but it's just carried on too far. So for me, the software, is it as bad as it's ever been? I don't know. But it is not very good. It's nowhere near as good as the hardware.
No, it's nowhere near as good as the hardware. And I think it's worse than it's ever been in many ways. Keeping in mind, I've been a Mac user since Mac OS 8.5. No, that's not from the outset of the Mac. I did use an Apple II very briefly. I did use an original Mac very, very briefly. But I've been a consistent user of Mac hardware and software since then. OS X, when it launched, was very pretty, very functional, incredibly slow.
Very slow.
Glacial. In the way that Windows 11 is glacially slow these days, I think the original versions of OS X were. And it stayed there all the way till about, I don't know, Lion, something like that. Yeah, maybe about Lion.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Word performance got there. It was, however, hugely functional, very obvious. Things weren't hidden from you. It was consistent across versions. Things got better.
It was a pleasure to use it.
They would occasionally take a step back and take the time to fix massive bugs, improve apps, do things like that. I would say, since they changed to the names of the parks or whatever parts of California is, it has not improved in any meaningful way. What we've had is integration with iPhones and iPads and widgets on your desktop and a few bits and pieces like that, and the easier way to send messages from your phone, from your computer rather than your phone. I think functionally they hide too many things. They hide the scroll bars. They make Windows impossible to resize. Things get lost in colors and liquid glass things and all the rest of it. And it's not every time I used to install I used to be excited to install a Mac OS update because
we'd install it and you'd look for what's new, what's changed, what's improved.
it would bring new things. Whereas now, you said the word yourself, it brings regression. And that is not right. In the same way, I think Windows 11 is actually a regression from Windows 10. And you might argue that. I think it's a very slow on the same bit of hardware. You do see a performance.
I probably don't use it enough.
I use quite a lot of Windows 11.
The one to argue it. Yeah, I don't, so I'm not the one to argue that.
Corporately, macOS is objectively worse than it has been in the last 2 iterations, last 3 iterations, last 4 iterations. This chart here where it goes 4.2, 4.2, 4.2, 3.5, I would have gone 4.2, 4.1, 4.0, 3.5. You know, it's been getting worse, I think. But this dive, it's significantly worse than it used to be. And it's not as low as it was I don't even remember what was going on in 2016 to make it that bad. I think this isn't low enough. This is
2016 was probably more influenced by the butterfly keyboard.
Yeah, so this is hardware and software. I think the software is making the hardware worse.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because it is integrated. It comes as a package. I would agree Tahoe is a massive regression, but for a long time, since 2020, I've not really used macOS in any real... I've had it, and I've always had a device with it on, but I haven't used it every day.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, most of the comments here you get into... from everybody else, you get into the controversy about how bad the software is, and that has pulled it down. I don't think the hardware is better. I think reliability and the actual hardware are different things. Of all the Macs I use, the M4 is probably the most interesting thing because it actually became a little bit upgradable. So, and then it's pulled down by software too.
A little bit upgradable. I think you're right. I think Tahoe is a regression in many ways. I don't like the way they've played the same. They've made the same noises they did when they brought out iOS 7 of your content's key, we've got layers and we're going to do all this stuff, and all they've done is blur stuff, make it distracting, make it buggy. It's not very cohesive. And I get you want to have some similarities between your OSs so they look like a suite of OSs. I can kind of get behind it, but you use them very differently. I sit here with my keyboard and my mouse on a massive screen, which is very different to how I touch my iPhone and I scroll and it's in my hand, and I'm using my iPhone when I'm standing in the queue at the coffee shop, and then I chuck it in my pocket. I do something on it for seconds and chuck it away. Your Mac, you're generally in front of it for hours on end. You're using keyboards and mice. You're not touching it famously. And why are you trying to design them all the same? And I think there's a line somewhere where you want to, like I say, have similarities in, say, Safari and how it works so that it works in a similar way, but you should be leaning into the screen reader state, the primary interaction methods, rather than try and make it all look the same.
Yep, I agree with you. macOS used to be opinionated. It used to enforce things on you, and what works on a Mac doesn't work on an iPad, even though they've got a certain amount of windowing at this point.
True. And you used to have a thing called Mac apps. You could tell something was written for the Mac, like a really quality Mac app. And nobody writes a really quality Mac app anymore.
Nobody writes a really quality app anymore because they're all built in Electron.
Or AI.
Anyway, moving swiftly along. So, I need to give it a score. So, score it 1 to 5. Mac.
So, in my head, I'm going hardware is like a 4.5. And I'm probably going software is like a 2. So, I'd probably be in the middle at 3.
3. So, I'll give it 2.5. I don't think it's good enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Fair enough. iPhone. I think we're probably going to have very different experiences here.
This is the bit where Chris gets out his iPhone 17 Pro because he loves this phone. Look at it. It's beautiful.
Your weekly demonstration of your iPhone 17. Every week you hold it up to the camera.
I love it. I genuinely love this phone. Do you know what? I was in the pub last night with a couple of friends. I had my iPhone on the table and a mate of mine goes, "Have you not scratched it yet?" Because I've had it not in a case since September, whenever I bought it. And he picked it up and he's like, "It looks mint." And I was like, "I have it. It's more luck than skill, but it's in really good state of affairs." And I love it because I feel comfortable not having it in a case. I love the feel of it. It's beautiful. And I love the colour. Look at that colour. Oh, who knew you could have bright tech?
Okay, so good. I agree. I think a colour is a good thing. The hardware is fine. I think they've iterated again. If you haven't had an iPhone in 3 years, the iPhone 17 is a great iPhone. If you have an iPhone 16, it's a good iPhone. If you have an iPhone 15, it's all right. It might be enough to convince you to upgrade. I didn't.
I wouldn't rush, to be honest. I don't think they've done anything that is amazing. I'm enjoying the 3 cameras having better megapixels. They're all 48 megapixels now.
Yeah, great. So what you really like is the fact that it's a little bit tougher and it's a nice bright colour. really. Nothing else is significantly different from what you had before, other than maybe you feel the battery's a bit fresher because it's a new thing. So
yeah, I do only charge it to 80%, and it gets me through just fine.
So we already said the Samsung lineup was a bit iterative, and I think that's the iPhone 17 is iterative in the same way that we've reached a point where they're giving us the bare minimum to get us to upgrade to the next phone. All the companies doing it. I don't blame Apple for it. Samsung do it, OnePlus do it, they all do it. There's nobody out there going, right, I'm going to put some massive 3,000 megapixel camera in this phone with a 12,000 nit screen and, you know, a battery that's going to last you a week. Why not? Where is the true innovation? I feel like all the companies are just doling this stuff out to us. So there's that. And don't get me wrong, I think it's a solid upgrade for if you've had a phone, not had a phone for a couple of years. Again, to me, the software drags it down. I don't think Liquid Glass looks particularly great on this thing. It's not. I find it a distraction. I don't like the big buttons. I don't like the rounded corners. I don't like the opacity. I don't like notifications strangely vanish. I hate the alarm notification. It's too easy.
The swipey thing.
The swipey thing, which I know you can turn off in the settings, but the default settings should be good, and the default settings aren't good. I have a lot to complain. I think most of my complaints come from iOS 26. I think it's good hardware, again, let down by shonky software that hasn't been properly tested, where they're just shoehorning things in. Not as much shoehorning of AI as Samsung were doing in the S26, but I think it's fine. You know, I can't get any more excited about it than that.
I think for me, the thing I don't like is the lack of toolbars. Everything's floating on top, like your buttons. I was just scrolling your messages now as you're talking, and you know, you've got your messages in the long list, and you've got the edit button and the filter button on the right, and then probably got the search and the new button, and your content just scrolls underneath it. So you just got words on top of words with a blur. And I think I prefer it better to have a proper toolbar. And where they now float everything at the bottom, it now takes up more space than what it would have done previously because it's raised up. And if you had a toolbar that was set lower, I think it is better.
Consistent search, Chris. Where does the search bar go when you're in settings, when you're in the web? Where does that? Can you find it? Can you pick out that blurry mess from all the other content?
Yeah, and they do keep moving it around. They have put it at the bottom in settings.
It's mostly at the bottom, but because it's buggy, it occasionally floats halfway up a page.
Yep. And then some screens you're on, you get a cross on the left. Sometimes it's on the right. Sometimes it's on the top right. Sometimes it's in the middle. The whole consistency piece seems to have disappeared.
It's massively inconsistent. Now, having been on Android, you know, for the last couple of weeks, one thing I really valued on Android was the consistent back gesture. No matter what app you're in, you just go back, back, back. You're on the home screen again. I don't need to swipe up to get anything. I've gone too far in a web browser, I go back. Had I only just opened the web browser, I go back again, it goes back to the home screen. It's consistent. It makes sense.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very simple thing. And to tell you the best thing, the keyboard worked.
Wow.
Right?
Why do you need a keyboard?
Why do you need a keyboard? You never need to type anything, do you? But literally, the keyboard worked. Be it swipe or be it tap the letters out, I feel my iPhone misses 1 out of 5 taps. And it's been proven with videos that it's so laggy that it doesn't pick up the taps. I think that's what contributes to my feeling that it's the software is the problem here. The hardware the iPhone launched with the promise of a good keyboard, and it had a good software keyboard when Steve Jobs stood on stage and did it. It doesn't have that anymore. I don't know what the lag is in the keyboard or why it's so poor at picking out touch targets, but it does seem it's a definite thing.
And the autocorrect has got worse and worse. I like this comment. So Liquid Glass is not as bad on the iPhone as on the Mac, but it's still terrible. That was Brent Simmons.
Brent, you can rely on Brent for that kind of thing. So we'll have to be careful. We'll go along on all these things. So I'm going to give this a score. I think it's a 2.5. I think it's all right hardware. I think it's bad software. So it's pulling your average down.
What did I gave the Mac 3. Yeah. This is got to be at least a 3.5 for me. Maybe a 4.
A 4?
No, 3.5. 3.5.
I was going to take task. 3.5. All right. I mean, fair enough. You've bought the phone. I haven't bought the phone, so maybe that represents the differences. Maybe I'm more irritated at the moment because of the weight of the company's nonsense is
I think I'm too optimistic as well, though.
You're an optimistic lad, Chris. I think that's fine. Fair enough. The iPad. I haven't bought an iPad in years. Maybe that's my answer to this. So I'll let you talk about this.
Do you know what, though? There's no need to buy an iPad, is there? Because the new hardware doesn't really give you anything. They don't need a faster iPad. The cameras, you never use the camera on an iPad. I like my iPad. I do use it a lot. I like using the pencil on it. So I think that the hardware is as good as it's ever been, but it hasn't really moved on, has it now?
No, I think I'd agree. I think the hardware is incredibly iterative, even more so than the phone. And if you flip to the software, they did the thing we were all asking them to in as minimal a way as they could. Yay, we've got windowing now. That's a great thing. It's a proper evolution of it, but I still feel like it's shackled by what you can do with those windows. Where's the actual file browser? What they give you in place of a file browser is not appropriate for a desktop class operating system.
Why do they move the traffic light buttons when you use an app? Sometimes they're in the menu bar, sometimes they're in the window. Why is the menu bar hiding? Why can't I have it showing all the time? Why does the menu start in the middle and not on the left? Why? All these questions. Why? I think it's good. It's better. But it's not perfect.
It's better. It's an improvement. But I like this comment from Michael Sly. More than 99% of what I do is better on my Mac, my phone, or my Kindle. But if you like iPad, this was a good year. I think that's fair. If you're an iPad person, this was a great upgrade. It's interesting you were an iPad person, and even you were a bit like, it's all right. No?
I have come back to the Mac a bit more with a change in job. I think if my MacBook Air had a SIM card, I don't know how much I would use my iPad.
Interesting. Scores. For me, because they actually made a proper effort with the software windowing, the rest of it still looks like liquid ass. 3.5.
Yeah, probably same.
Fair enough.
Sadly.
Hardware lineup. Wearables. Yeah, this is a tricky one.
I've got no comment on wearables.
So the scores are 2.2 for Vision Pro.
Actually, I do have a comment on wearables. I tell a lie. I can comment on the AirPods. Vision Pro, 2.2.
That's generous.
Really?
Generous.
For $3,500, and they still haven't made all the Apple apps native. I'm just going to say that's a 1.5 for me. I want it to be a 3.5, because then I might buy one.
It's a 1.0 for me. There's nothing about the Vision Pro that makes me want one.
Yeah, sadly, I think I agree.
And it has liquid glass.
It made everybody else get liquid glass because it was the start for 10.
Yeah, so Vision Pro, poor. Apple Watch, I've stopped wearing one. You've stopped wearing one.
Welcome to the analog world, Rod.
Yeah, that's where I used to be back in the day. I think some of the features of the Apple Watch are obviously great. They haven't iterated enough in the last 3 years to make it a compelling product.
I don't think you could recommend anybody upgrade. There's just no, unless you need a battery. But that you should be able to repair that. I just don't think the Apple Watch does anything new and exciting, and the OS isn't new and exciting. I don't even know what the Apple Watch does. I just haven't kept up with it. But I'm fairly confident it pretty much does what it did when I stopped wearing one 3 years ago.
And AirPods remain a product in the lineup, particularly if it's a Max. I think the AirPods Pro, they've made another solid evolution to, but not anything revolutionary.
I have a pair of AirPods Pros 3. I wear them in semi-frequently, I would suggest. I can't tell you the difference between my 2s and my 3s. But my son was a very happy recipient of my old AirPod Pros too.
Let's score these then. So I don't think there's anything particularly stellar across this line. They haven't done anything revolutionary. It's a 2.5 for me across the board.
Agreed.
Easy. Home. I don't think we need to go into this in detail. There's no signs of life in the home as far as I'm concerned.
Did Apple do anything in the home in the last year?
So we've got Apple TV. We've got the HomePod.
But did Apple do anything with them in the last year?
None of these products have been updated in any way.
And tvOS looks fine with the liquid glass.
But all tvOS is a launcher to Netflix, BBC, Drive to Survive, whatever it is that you're watching on there. And it's fast at that, but it always was. There's nothing new there.
So I think you're getting a 1.5 at best here.
I concur. 1.5. Let's move on. Apple TV had its own thing, but I presume that's the service? No, that's the actual Apple TV box, and we've mixed them together. So same, 1.5.
1.5. They did nothing with it. I love my Apple TV. I got them everywhere, but it's
Easy.
Not exactly moving forwards.
Services. 3.6 have scored this year, up from 3.5 last year. I mean, from reading the comments, most people think this is about Apple TV Plus rather than everything else in the services lineup.
You've got music, purely. You've got TV Plus, News Plus, if they still call it that, Apple Arcade, Apple Fitness. I use music all the time. I use Apple TV infrequently. And I have some storage, and I like all the iCloud syncing and the storage. That's just admin though, isn't it? It's not fun. And occasionally I dip into Apple News Plus. They've not really done much with it though, have they?
No.
It's a 2.5 to 3 at best.
I think it's a 2 for me. Most of these services are extremely dull. They sit there in the infrastructure doing nothing. I've replicated most of them myself to do other things. I host my own photographs now. Music is handy, but I wouldn't bat my eyelids if I had to, switch to YouTube Music, Tidal, one of the other services. A music service does what it does. I pay for the storage just because I felt I've had to all these years, but I'm not sure I get the value out of it. I think I only use about 4% of my 2 terabytes or whatever it is I get. I don't need that. Apple TV, I do use. Apple TV Plus, I do use. I think they have some great shows on there, as evidenced by I just watched Sugar.
It's not called Apple TV Plus anymore, Roger. You're talking about Apple TV, but I talk about Apple TV, the service, the box or the app.
I mean, that says it all about this, doesn't it? If they split whatever the viewing part of it is that has For All Mankind of it out, I'd rate that highly. I rate everything else very poorly, though. I think it's a 1.5.
But again, in the 12 months that have passed, nothing has really happened to any of these services in a meaningful way. We've had new content on Apple TV, yes, but nothing else has really happened, has it?
And it's interesting that what the people are complaining about are the upselling. And in the same way I take against Microsoft by you install the operating system and the first thing you get is, do this, do this, do this. This is what you get with Apple stuff these days. And this is why I'm scoring it so low. We've said a million times on this podcast, the service, the hardware, the software should be able to stand up on its own merits and compete. Apple TV Plus, Apple TV can compete with the HBOs, the Netflixes, and the Paramounts of this world. I don't think the cloud storage is a sufficient offering. I don't think fitness is a sufficient offering. I think news is full of very tacky, poor ads. It's not compelling services. And Apple Arcade is a service that exists.
Yeah, fair.
1.5.
But how little effort are they doing to move anything forward, though? That's the question. What are they doing?
They're maximizing profits is what they're doing. Every time we have a quarterly results and we look at the services figure, it goes up and up and up and up and up and up. They don't need to do anything because people keep paying it.
It just feels like there's so little moving forwards, so little investment in, let's release some good hardware. Let's really improve the OS of Apple TV or HomePods and do new things. What are these teams doing all year?
Making money.
They're counting money, I think, is what they're doing.
Yeah, or if they've got AI doing it, the same as Microsoft. Hardware reliability. I haven't had an Apple thing break, really. All right, the USB-C port is gone on my iPhone 15, but that's probably a consequence of it being a 3-year-old piece of hardware.
Yeah, I think their reliability is stellar. I think they're in a really good place. How often have you bought a device, you got dead pixel, or it's faulty? It's so infrequent. I think their hardware is very good.
But again, I'm running Debian Linux on a ThinkPad from 2012. No, it's newer than that. 2015. It's a 10-year-old laptop. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Even the battery's still going.
I think that's fair. It's probably back to your comment earlier if you need to look around and see what other hardware looks like. I think you're right. A lot of hardware is very good these days. My last company, we were running laptops that were 5-year-olds and they still stood up. They were still pretty good. If somebody looked after it, the device would stand up really well.
But this is the thing for me, I think, is we're all locked into our little bubble ecosystem where all we have is what we know. And you've got to step back from that a little bit to actually get a feeling for what it's like. You can go on forums, you can find them full of people complaining about rubbish Apple software support when they've gone to an Apple store or something broke or the USB-C. It happens to people. I think it's the minority. I genuinely do.
Yep.
I do think their hardware reliability is very good. It's why I've still been on the platform. And when I have had problems, they've generally fixed it straight away. But for everything you hear about their hardware reliability being good, we get developer stories where they get locked out and they lose access to everything, like that Australian who lost access to absolutely everything, including his developer account. That's not their hardware reliability as such, although it would affect your view of that. I think it's just a point of being cautious and seeing, for me, hardware reliability is a 4. I can't really blame them for a 3-year-old USB-C port going wrong. Nothing else has really gone wrong. I will say my MacBook Pro, the lid is offset against the base, so it doesn't shut entirely square, and I don't know what's caused that. That's not great, but it still works. It's reliable.
That isn't great. So what we said, we're going to go with the 4.5 for reliability?
I'm going to go for a 4. 4.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair. Good. Apple software, we don't need to debate this. It's garbage. It's 1.5. Across the board.
I'd be generous if I said 2.
Yeah, that's very generous of you. What, are you thinking of one thing in particular? For me, I think considering the amount of money we give them for software in terms of when we buy a new piece of hardware, if you're subscribing to iCloud and all the rest of it, the cheek for them to come along and then start charging a subscription model for Keynote, Pages, numbers, yada, 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 is really extracting the urine at the highest possible level. I don't think the investment we get back in terms of software when they present us with Liquid Glass and all these subscription models is sufficient for what we get. It's a lot of investment in time of us learning things, of us not being able to resize windows, of us getting toolbars shoved out of our ways, of us having to pay for Keynote and Pages. And I don't mind them charging for Final Cut Pro and Logic. I think fair enough. But those consumer level apps to put in some minimal amount of AI garbage, it's not good enough.
Yeah, I was just mulling it over, and the more you talk, the more I'm thinking the quality's really regressed this year, hasn't it? Really regressed.
So you think this has had some highs and lows in it over the years from the 6 colors thing. Lowest is 2.7. We're back at a 2.7.
Yeah, at best, I think you're right. It's worse. It's got to be like a 1.5.
It's a 1.5 at our most generous. They had. I guess they're keeping up with security updates. That's the best we can say.
They seem to be doing a good job in that area, but the actual stuff you see and touch and use is not good.
Yeah, as you said, Liquid Glass is so bad it makes everything else look bad. Nobody likes Liquid Glass, but I think there's a more endemic problem than that across the board. It's not just Liquid Glass. The apps are buggy, things are unreliable. It's not just a look and feel thing. There's an underlying malaise in the software that is becoming apparent.
It's kind of back to my point, though. What have they been doing all year? Like, none of the apps have materially moved on. Like, Messages does nothing really more than it did a year ago. You're still coming up as maybe Rod in my contacts list. But the one I've got pinned to you seems to think it is you. None of the software's really moved along. And like I say, you'd get solo indie people and you'd get more functionality out of them month on month than you're getting out of Apple.
And that works on our next topic, which is developer relations. There's not enough transparency in the software. If iCloud stops syncing, how do I fix it? Sign out of everything and sign in again. That's the only fix you've got.
I hate that one.
And that feels the same for developer relations. The developers are being treated worse than consumers at this point, I think.
Yep.
And you feel it across the blogosphere. You feel it in podcasts when you hear other developers talking about it. They're not appreciated for the work they do. They are the people that got Apple to be where they are. Yeah, they built the hardware, but if they hadn't built the apps, people wouldn't have come.
So what do we say for the quality then? What would we rate it?
I mean,
developer relations.
I struggle slightly because I haven't submitted software to the App Store. I can, in hand on heart, consider myself a developer. So I'd give them a 2.5. And that feels generous.
But we can read the room, can't we?
Yeah. I mean, if we read
2 at best, I would say.
2 at best. Okay, I'd agree with that. Then the big one, Apple's impact on the world, which, as you look at the trend of this, has historically been high. And I think that's because we all bought the fact that Apple was doing good for the world in terms of it had high recyclability, it was worried about solar, it was making sure that people were represented both within the company and across the piece. They were secure, they cared about us as human beings, they were the intersection between liberal arts and hardware. That's how they always pitched themselves. And ever since 2015, it's been a continual decline, pretty much. There's been the odd little high point, but we've gone from 3.8 in 23 to 2.1, and I'm not going to score them at 2.1 because I don't feel that this company is representative of the way I think that they would like themselves to be portrayed.
I think it's regressed, hasn't it? Because they're stepping away from their carbon neutrality stuff they were trying to hit. You've not had any of that this year. They're trying to appease their leader, and that doesn't feel right. And it doesn't feel like they're leaving anything in a better place than the way they found it. It feels like we've had a massive step back, and I think Apple should have kept to its principles and carried on its journey without doing this.
I mean, I wonder if those principles were ever really there, is the thing for me. That at a point in 2015, when most companies had corporate and social responsibility and were trying to show themselves as being green, representative, having the best ideals, if you look at the history of capitalism, unfortunately, these two things are incompatible. And you only need to go and look at a company like, I don't know, DuPont, who put lots of chemicals that made Teflon into the water and how that poisoned cattle. And we all now have a certain percentage of it in our bloodstreams as a consequence because they made $80 billion a year. And
Yeah.
we're not that far away from that with Apple at this point. And it seems a terrible thing to say for a company that I've cheer-led for so many years, that I don't believe they ever had green credentials. I think they greenwashed. I don't believe they ever valued people of other ethnicities more than any other. Well, maybe they did at one point, but they certainly don't anymore in light of what the current government does. And you can see that with their reaction to Ice Block and other things, that they are quite happy to portray those ethics instantly.
Yeah, you're right. So I don't know where I'm going to put them. They're definitely not a 2.1.
If I could give them 0, I would. What's the lowest possible score? 1? 1.5? What can I give them?
Then you're not even holding them up as a company that others should aspire to be, because they used to be that. Like, you should aspire to be more like Apple, and we're not saying that anymore, are we?
But it's terrible that I don't. It's so bad now. I don't believe that they ever were, and maybe they were at some point. Maybe they actually did care about the green credentials of the planet. Maybe
I think they did.
I don't know. Literally, could it just have been greenwashing right from the outset?
I think they were generally trying to get there, but they're a million miles away from it now, because they've not said anything about it. And Lisa Jackson's leaving and not being replaced with an equal person. So it's clearly not a priority for them.
I mean, you look at the other developers' comments here. You know, how can a company tout its own diversity while at the same time handing out golden awards to a person that's trying to destroy our country's diversity? You either believe in it or you don't. There's no grey area here.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
So it's going to be about 1.
I don't care what Tim's personal feelings on the matter are. I don't care what his fiduciary responsibility is. Apple simply cannot claim they are serving the greater good in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
They stopped red products. They don't even pretend to be any more environmentally positive, other than when they present new products. I mean, all of these are long-standing Apple developers, customers, journalists, etc., etc. None of them are coming out in any way positive, and these are its strongest proponents. These are the people we respected when we got into being a part of the Apple ecosystem. Our podcast is about Apple things. It breaks my heart, but this is just the way it is.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's sad, but it's true.
It is. So, whatever lowest score I can give, 0, frankly.
I'd probably give a 1, and that is a generous 1.
Can we be negative? Apple's impact on the world is now negative. It's not positive.
Oh, this is a depressing episode.
But it is what it is. I mean, this was what's going to happen. You reap what you sow. It was within the company's gift to stand up. If anybody has the amount of money to tell the government to go to hell, it's Apple. And they haven't.
Maybe they're not big enough.
But they are big enough. They are big enough. You know, the tech bros at the top of the world, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, are big enough.
Yeah, maybe they need to get aligned.
App of the week?
Go on then. Let's do app of the week. Let's leave it there.
Let's leave it. Let's move along.
On that bombshell.
On that bombshell. My app of the week is Joplin. I like a note-taking app. This is a note-taking app. It's very straightforward. It lets you take notes in Markdown, or you can do to-dos. You can put in tables. Anything that's possible in Markdown is possible in this. I like a bit of Markdown. It lets me write freeform. It lets me write bullet points or numbered lists. I can have to-dos as well. I've set up my own little server for this in my internal cloud thing, so I leave my VPN on the phone all the time, and I can sync instantly with every device I've got, be it Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever. I can sync with Joplin, so I'm taking it out and I'm kicking the tires, and that's what's impressed me this week. Open source, Joplin.
Cool. Joplin. I've not heard of it, so I've learned something new.
There you go. Check it out should you choose to. Thing of the week.
Fair enough. So for me, thing of the week, still my networking bent, and I've gone for a travel router by Unify, and I've bought quite a bit of Unify equipment this year. This little thing is kind of cool. So it's a bit smaller than your iPhone. It needs to be plugged in. There's no battery. And you basically, you get this to join public Wi-Fi's, you get this to join your office Wi-Fi, and then your devices join it. And I've genuinely really enjoyed using it while I was traveling. And it automatically connects to your VPN at home. It means I don't set all the Wi-Fi's up on my different devices. And I quite like it because I just join it to the one Wi-Fi, like in my hotel room. All my devices link, including like my digital notebook. And I just think it's kind of cool. And everything backs up. I can dial back into my Mac. No setup required. Nothing on, when I was traveling the other week, I had a phone, an iPad, a Mac, digital note taker. It all just worked. I think it's kind of cool and something else for me to play with. I was quite happy and enjoyed it.
How does it work on captive portals?
I did think that really well. You just do it in the so basically you just go on the iPhone app and you go join that network there, maybe the railway network when I was on the train, and it doesn't matter what device you seem to use on a railway, just to point that out. The railway network's always rubbish. But anyway, you just then put the username and password in or what have you, and then it connects and it remembers it. And so I've linked it to all my work networks. So when I go into different offices, just plug that device in and my devices just connect to it. And I don't need to connect to the work Wi-Fi's. I just connect to that device. It's all saved in my devices. Like I say, even my digital notebook, which normally wouldn't sync when I'm away from home because I wouldn't bother to add it, but it can just sync in my bag, as will my iPad. Even if I don't take it out, it will connect to that and do its thing. So I'm really quite enjoying it. You can plug it into your iPhone and use that, or your iPad as the mechanism to get data, or you can Ethernet it into any of your devices. It's just a really well thought out device. The only complaint I've got is it should have a battery. Make it twice as thick, stick a battery in it. So you plug it in, and that way so I've got a normal charging plug with 2 ports on it. One port plugs into this. If you then plug something into the other port, it obviously does something in the plug to go, oh, there's another device plugged in. I need to switch the voltage. That thing then reboots because every time there's a slight power blip, it reboots. And I think it just needs a little bit of battery, and that's my biggest criticism of it. Other than that, the thing's ideal.
Version 1 product. I mean, I don't have one of these. I do have my GL iNet travel router, which I've left in the bag the last few times I've been traveling. Actually, I probably need to pull it out and see it. I did have an issue when I was in Italy with Linux, Fedora Linux particularly. I could not get through the captive portal by hook or by crook. I tried everything.
And I guess that's a nice thing. I'm doing all the captive portals on that, and then my device is just going onto it. And like I say, they're syncing and doing stuff without me even realizing it. And it'd be the same if I took my Switch away. It would just connect through that. So for me, I'm sold on this. Like I say, if they release one tomorrow with a battery in it, I would probably buy it and sell that.
It's neat, and I probably should check it out. I'm a big Unify fan, as you know. But for the moment, because I've already got a travel router, I haven't rushed to buy this. So
yeah, no, that's fair. And I probably don't need it, but I really like it. And I think it's cool. It's a cool bit of tech.
Fair enough. I think we can call that a show, Chris.
I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact, Rod is at g5make@mastodon.scot. I am at _CGP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube by going to the website and clicking on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.